All right. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Rock and Roll Ghost podcast. This week we have Patrick Keenan, guitarist in Chicago rock band, punk band, I guess, however you want to describe them. Wrong War. They've got a new album coming out. When's that due out?
So digitally, it's available now. It's streaming everywhere, and it's on Bandcamp as of the 14th of January. And then vinyl, we're just waiting for production. You know, the plants are so backed up that's going to happen like a few months before the vinyl's ready.
Oh, I thought you just had a couple of songs out on Bandcamp. I didn't realize the whole thing. I would have listened to more of the album.
Yeah, the whole thing's on it. Yeah, there was 2 songs that were like a teaser thing, the Dead Tank, and then the whole album's available now, though. Once Upon a Weapon, it's called.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to give that a listen then, sometime this week then, because I dug the 2 songs you had up as like a sampler. And what kind of well, first of all, tell me how did Once Upon a Weapon come about? I mean, what did you guys? This is your second album. What did you guys set out to do that was different from your debut?
I don't know that we like consciously set out to do anything much different. I mean, just the whole landscape of being in a band is a little bit different right now as far as playing out often. Obviously we haven't, with the pandemic. So we all live about 5 minutes away from each other, and we try to get together at least once a week, and we just write tunes. We're like, so when the first album was done, we were like kind of all looking at each other. We're like, well, we might as well keep writing songs. So it's been fun. I mean, it's kind of just like all we've been really focused on is like we just get together and we just bring different ideas to the table, and we're just continuing to write. Like we're already got a couple of tunes ready for the next record.
So how much were you able to support the first album?
Not much. I mean, as far as going out and playing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot. I mean, as far as like, traditionally supporting a record and like going out and touring, like that's not, really in the cards at this time for us.
Right.
We kind of
it came out at the wrong time.
Yeah, and we also, we've all got families, we've all got 9-to-5 jobs and kids and everything else. So it's not like we're hitting the road for 6 weeks or something like that. But we pick our spots. We've been able to do some weekends. We got out east a little bit with Atomic Action, which was the label along with Council that put out the first record.
Okay.
So we trying to just pick our spots. We played in Detroit, Philly, out at Atomic Action Records in Rhode Island. So it was fun. We've been able to get out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about what you just said about everybody kind of having families and jobs and everything. What kind of, how does the group, in working within the group and putting out music and all that, how does that work within all of your lives in that way? I mean, is it difficult to, obviously you said you come together once a week, and that's probably easy to do, to figure out with those schedules one day a week to get together. But I mean, at the very least, but how difficult is it to have a band to get any kind of forward momentum when you're all kind of, you're trying to, keep your head above water in your normal lives? Does that provide any difficulty?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, like anything else, if something's worth doing, you kind of try to make time for it. And, we also, we've all played in bands, since we were in high school. And then I think it's safe to say we all kind of took a fairly long break from actively playing in bands. And some of us took a break from playing altogether even. And especially when when our kids were younger and we had, young families. And I know me personally, like I took like 10 years off where I wasn't playing in a band.
Wow.
And was just busy with work and little kids. And as the kids get a little bit older, it was easier just to kind of pick spots, and supportive spouses help the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. We laugh about it. Like most of the time when we get together to rehearse or write songs, the majority of the time we're practicing at like 9 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday morning. So it's different than when we were younger. A different purpose too. Like, when we were in our early 20s, our bands, we would get together and practice and have 15 beers, and it was like a party. Now it's like we come in, we're focused, we have fun. But it's totally different than when we were younger.
Right, time is more limited, and you have to take advantage of the time you have, and just being older or being more mature in general.
But sure.
In general,
that's what we're trying to do, and try to make the most of it, get the most bang for our buck. And we're like, if we're writing these songs, we might as well try to document it and put it out.
So, I mean, nowadays, really, this kind of idea for performing as a band, nothing has to be the way it used to be. You don't have to have a band and give up your job that is actually earning you enough to maybe get by, or at least hang on, to go and make $200 a week playing whatever place will have you in the hopes of getting bigger. I mean, nowadays you could just everything's changed because of how technology's changed. You don't have to give up your regular life to still do art, which is interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, and for us, it's again, speaking personally, like the art is enough sort of now. Like we're creating something together. And we're excited to put it out to the world, and hopefully people like it and people take notice of it. But, we're also pretty clear in our sights of what we're doing. There's a million bands out there doing what we're doing, and hats off to the ones that really do get out there and tour still, because I mean, that's, I think that's still the best way to get your reach out to the most amount of people, especially, the little genre that we call punk rock or hardcore or what have you. It helps to be out there and be busy. And a lot of the bands that have gotten more attention, at least that you see, it's deserved, because they are out there playing a ton. Where it's hard for us to do that. We know that. So again, we just try to pick our spots, and it's more about being able to do it and create and still be artistic for us.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And it's great that you're able to do it, because so many times people give up their art, their passions, because they have to get a so-called job, any sort, or it's just what, they were bashing their heads against the wall trying to make something happen when they were younger, and for whatever reason it doesn't happen the way you imagine it. Like, when I was growing up, the kind of model was like to end up being like Van Halen or something, so barring putting in that kind of dedication, that kind of success was never going to come to somebody, and now the measure of success is so, especially for any kind of rock music, is so bizarre. Like, there's no, I don't even know what success technically is anymore. Just that, I guess if you're able to make money from touring and you can support yourself, that's a success, because nobody sells albums obviously anymore. People sell certain amounts, nowadays, and their aim is probably lesser, and they were, better rewards probably because they're doing it more themselves instead of having somebody else do it. So they're, but it's just the idea of success has just changed. It's personal success. It's whatever the artist in question views as what satisfies them in the moment. It seems now,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, for us, the fact that we got a second record recorded and all the layout and the artwork done, and the fact that we were able to do all of that was like a success in and of itself for us.
Yeah.
And if a few people like it along the way, then that's great. Obviously that makes you feel good. But the likelihood of it getting to a wider audience, it's hard to tell how you do that without a little bit of luck and a lot of hustle. It's still a grind,
Oh yeah.
Like solo artists or singer songwriters that are, to me, that seems like the one way that people could still make a living out of it independently. And you have to have a lot of freedoms. Like people that are doing tours and playing in people's houses, is one way that I've heard people are able to make more money directly for that. And then when you look at even a small band like ours, you're talking about 4 individuals who, write and document everything collectively. Like, we're just doing it for the love of making music and being together. And we kind of lucked out that the 4 of us got together and it works.
Yeah. Well, how did the 4 of you originally meet?
So Dave, who plays bass, Dave Pawlowski, and I, we go back the farthest. Like we went to high school together. We've been in bands together for years.
Wow.
So we went to high school together. We went to college together. The first time, like we were in sort of like buddy bands in high school. Both like punk bands playing covers and a few originals. And then in college was the first time we were actually in a band together, doing all original music. And it just sort of lasted like through our 20s we played. So we've been good friends and bandmates for a long time. And, even the 2 of us hadn't played together in several years. So that was how it sort of started with that. He and I wanted to start playing together again and get something going. And then Dan Smith, the drummer, and Matt Weeks, the singer, myself and both of them, our kids all go to school together. So we met just like in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And it's pretty funny. I'm a contractor and all 3 of my bandmates are actually customers, but that's how I met Matt.
Okay.
We put new windows in his house, and it's kind of a funny story now, but like we were sitting there talking about the project, and then I looked over and I see like this like vast record collection full of like old Discord records and stuff. So our conversation quickly changed towards music. And then still fast forward a couple of years, because I knew, I knew that Matt had been in bands also and things like that. So I asked him if he was interested in joining this band, and he was a little probably reluctant, rightfully so. He hadn't played in a while either, but he agreed to jump in and play with us. And the rest of us, the 3 of us, like we had no idea what Matt's actual resume looked like. And I mean, he's been in some amazing bands, coming from the Detroit area, and like, he actually was in some touring, like successful bands.
Yeah.
Where, our bands, at least Dave and I's, were always a little bit more on the lazy side as far as touring. and being able to do that. You know, one regret I have that we didn't tour when we were younger, but you know, it was hard to do then too. So yeah, but that's how. So the three of us, we, like I said, we all live within 2 miles of each other. We're able to practice in the basement of my shop. The studio that we record at is also like 5 minutes away at another friend of ours' house. Like, it's all just sort of been like serendipitous so far. You know, it's just been kind of, we're lucky that it's worked out the way it has.
Yeah.
We're all enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, with regards to that, you mentioned that you kind of all contribute to the music. Is there any one specific person that writes the lyrics, or do you all kind of chip in?
No, so Matt 100% writes all the lyrics.
Okay.
So typically, I mean, a lot of bands do it differently, I guess, but I mean, for us, it's, I mean, for me, this is the way it's been most of my life. Like, somebody will just come, you know, essentially with a riff. So it's usually Dave or I will come to practice either with a completely written song or an idea for a song, and then we just build on it from there. And then Matt adds his vocals and lyrics to the song, you know, as it's pretty much complete.
Yeah.
If he has some recommendations to tweak different parts and things like that to fit the lyrical content, then we do that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very collaborative.
Yeah. What would you say, like, the main focus of the songs are? I mean, what do you guys, what I don't know if there's because I've only really heard, I apologize, I've only heard the 2 songs. Like I said, really, the whole album was out. Is there a lyrical or a theme focus for the band, or are there different themes you explore on the whole album?
Yeah. I mean, it's you know, the state of the world today is a pretty interesting place, you know. So it's we all have pretty strong ideas of right and wrong and what's going on in the world, and we look at you know, politically what's gone on the last, like, our first record was sort of like you know, things have changed. They haven't changed that much, but, like, you know, our first record was put out, you know, and written and recorded like during Trump's presidency. So, I mean, it was pretty easy for us to find content and things to be pretty pissed off about. And, you know, unfortunately, that's still the case. But now it's like, I would say it has a lot to do with relationships of, you know, people around you, and seeing how some people have changed maybe that are in your life.
Gotcha.
And what's important to people, and whether or not they realize that they might actually be harming themselves and down the road. But if that makes sense, it's our Matt has a way with words, like, where we're all just kind of awestruck when he comes up with something. And I think we're all just sort of fortunate that, you know, when you got somebody in the room who's smart and you kind of align with them, and then you hear them put something together in a way where, more often than not, we're all usually blown away with what he comes up with.
Right.
And very much in agreement thematically with what he comes up with.
Mm-hmm.
So it works, you know, and it's and we just get to write like ripping tunes and just play fast, hard rock and roll, and, you know, he makes it I don't know, worthwhile.
Has there ever been any instance where, like, I don't mean combative, I just thinking, like, if there was a lyric or lyrics that, like, you guys had issue with for whatever reason, I wouldn't know why, but that have pushed back on to see about changing, or have you guys always been kind of in lockstep with one another?
We've really been in lockstep, which is like the cool part, you know. we're a 4-piece, so it's like we all have to be willing to put in some effort, and we've all gotten that back from each other tenfold. So it's like we really kind of click, and that was, like I mentioned, I've known Dave and I have known each other for almost 30 years, and I consider myself lucky that we were able to get Dan and Matt on board, and the 4 of us all together have not known each other all that long, and Dave certainly didn't know these guys at all before I kind of brought everybody together, and we've been super lucky. Like, it just has clicked. And we all, like any group, like we have different personalities and things like that, but it's there's a lot of respect for what each other brings to the table.
Yeah.
And, I would say, as far as what Matt brings to the table, like, knock on wood, I mean, there's never been a doubt. When he puts his touch on a song that we all kind of already like, obviously, and have worked on, and then when he comes in and finishes it off, it's like it helps, because he really finishes it off. So yeah, we haven't even been close to like something where we've questioned what he's talking about or how he's saying it. It's certainly a message that we all feel strongly about and all agree with.
No, that's great. It's great that you're, I think in a situation like with you guys, it's probably better for interpersonal relationships that even though you live close to each other, you're not constantly on top of one another. How bands can be, you spend too much time with people and everybody ends up hating each other.
Yeah, it happens. It happens for sure. I mean, everybody has a story of a band that didn't work out great, or here's of stories like that. I was always in bands like with friends that I grew up with, so it was rare for me to be in a band with just like other guys that got together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and the 4 of us have been really fortunate and I think part of it is that we're all sort of in a similar stage in our lives. We have school age kids, we have careers, we're all, 2 of us are going to be 50 here in the spring.
So, congratulations. I'm there myself.
Yeah. So, we're approaching 200 years old between the 4 of us. Well, hopefully we've got a little bit of sense.
2 centuries of experience is what you're
right. So we're just trying, keeping it in perspective, like we're having a blast. We're able to write tunes that, it's pretty cool when you got somebody in the UK who's reaching out like, oh, I love your record. And it's like, for us, it's like, oh, wow, how cool is that?
Yeah. You're happy if it gets out of the Chicago area, I'm sure, having somebody from across the Atlantic Ocean writing you back, like, how the hell did this get there? But that's the beauty of the modern day world. I perhaps it's the hopeful, wistful wonder, dreamer in me. But I keep thinking that one day, man, something with regards to rock, punk or whatever you want to call it, it's going to cut through like all of the shit that I mean, I don't think all of the music industry is bad, but we've kind of been stuck on automated for the past 20 years where, to my ears, everything sounds the same as it did when Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys came along in the late 90s, and it doesn't seem like it's evolved much. Now some things have, and I've seen some evolution on the underground, but I just feel like one day there's going to be, and for lack of a better band to reference, there's going to be a Nirvana that's going to just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden people are going to be like, it's okay to rock again. Not that people don't, it's just, and in fact, people overseas are more responsive to rock music than they are here, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, I think you're right. I think, it's bound to happen. You see it happening with, in some instances, like on a smaller scale, like we've seen bands like that were sort of adjacent to either through the label or things like that have like really kind of taken off on a smaller scale, but still have like kind of hit a nerve with people.
Yeah.
And those are still people that are out there kind of getting out, playing out as much as they can, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's
I'm just waiting for something revolutionary to happen, something where it's like, just somebody comes out of the blue, and it's like when, Chuck Berry and Elvis and all the originators, it's gonna be something like, it's gonna sound new again, and it's gonna have that spirit, that rebel, dangerous spirit, and I think that's a bit of a problem. As much as people have supported protesting more over the last several years, but the actual rebelliousness in music has gotten really tampered down. And I keep hoping for something just to cut through all the BS, so to speak, and just shake people, take people by the shirt collars and just shake the hell out of them. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't. Maybe I'm just, like I said, being hopeful, but I dream of something for kids, because it's like I had that. A lot of stuff I had as a kid really shook people up. So.
Yeah, no, I hope you're right. And I think it is out there. It's just a matter of, spreading the word. Like you mentioned before, like, the Chicago market versus like branching out into other areas. Like one of the things that's kind of cool about doing this now and having like a platform like Bandcamp, for example, is like there's no boundaries. It's not just playing, the same 3, 4, 5 clubs every 2 months in Chicago. And like when we were in our 20s, like that's what we were all about. We were like, just play once a month or play out, once every 2 months for sure. And it was a party, it was just a great time. And we just had a blast and had fun with our friends and other friends and bands. And like the allotment of time has shifted as far as what all of our own responsibilities are, coupled with what do we really want to do? It's not about going to play the same club every 6 weeks and just going out and having a blast and doing that. Like we would rather kind of focus on just writing new music, getting it out. And you don't really have to limit yourself geographically, which goes along with what you've been saying about how it is different now. Like it's different for us on a personal level. And it's also different because you can focus on doing it in a different way and just trying to spread things out online. Everybody for the most part is listening to music digitally. Either through the streaming platforms, the Spotify, things like that. I wish Bandcamp, like something like that, was as popular as Spotify, because it'd be better for the artists and musicians, and it's such an amazing platform where most people who are even like familiar with it, like I know I haven't even scratched the surface of what you can do as far as going in there and your profile and sharing music. But what an awesome way to learn about new bands,
Yeah.
And then I find myself listening to stuff that's like one of my favorite bands from the last 2 years that I've learned about is this band Chain Cult, and they're from Greece. Like how would I have ever heard of a band from Greece before? unless you're kind
Yeah.
of actively looking for cool new sounds.
Yeah. Well, I'm not as familiar with. I know Bandcamp, and I've been on it, but I haven't spent a lot of time. And you talking about that now makes me think I should spend more time on there. But if you start listening to one thing, does it give you recommendations of other things?
It will, or what you can do is you can go in and like you can look at different people's profiles and like supporters of that, and like if you're on watching a movie and it's like on Netflix or Prime or whatever, where it's like,
Right.
oh, customers also watched this.
Right.
So it's not necessarily like Spotify or like, I feel like, like Pandora kind of started that, where it was like, oh, if you like this combination of sounds,
Right.
maybe you'll like this. But it's more communal. Like it's way better for like the independent
Yeah.
band or artist. Um, as far as trying to sell merch, like that would be the place to do it.
Yeah. Well, when I've bought stuff either off the artist website or I've gone on Bandcamp. I
Yeah.
don't usually, do it any other way. So
Yeah, and it kind of also helps bands have a website. Like,
yeah.
I think less and less bands have a traditional website nowadays. Their
No, it
Bandcamp
makes sense.
is their site. And like
And they're
I listen to Spotify quite a bit,
yeah.
but I've used Spotify, and then that has helped me discover a band and then go buy the physical copy or what have you.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different world,
Yeah. I tend to I gotta be honest, I used to, and I feel like, well, definitely going to Bandcamp more, but I used to find out about more new artists when I was using Pandora. Spotify for me, I used because you could get the whole album, to listen to if you want to listen to it. But I also have this massive playlist of like 9,000 songs, so I use that when I just want to listen to, stuff I know at this point, but yeah, I don't inherently find out new music from them, quite honestly. So I've got to start checking out Bandcamp more, I think, and that's definitely that definitely seems like a more helpful place for people.
I think so. A lot of, and like, it seems to me like a lot of the younger, more active, more like kind of staunchly independent type bands that at least that I'm being introduced to are
Right.
pretty active in the Bandcamp world.
Yeah.
Versus a Spotify world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Great.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I did kind of want to get an idea of when you were growing up and first starting to play music. What were your influences?
That's a good question. I mean, my biggest influence would be my older brother, who's 7, almost 8 years older than me. So, I was born in 1975. So,
Okay.
By the time he was in high school, it was the early 80s, and he had a great record collection into punk rock and all sorts of different stuff for me to like sift through. We shared a bedroom growing up, so I was raised on like The Who at first, and then like introduced to all sorts of punk music through him. And then I would say I didn't start playing guitar until I was in college.
Okay.
So music probably like in high school became like a really big deal for me. And it was, but when I was in high school, it was the early 90s. So like,
Yeah.
and my friends, we were just, we were into punk rock, we were into hip hop, we were into the Beastie Boys, like it just became such an identity.
Yeah.
And I was a singer in a punk band in high school, and then started playing guitar in college. And I don't know, just from day one, it was it was, for me, it was always about learn to play just enough to make up your own stuff, you know? And I guess I got that from, you know, from a lot of that, the stuff that blew my mind, like when I first heard it was like Minor Threat and Bad Brains and a lot of the old DC stuff.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, I grew up listening to Quadrophenia and Ramones, and you know, once you get a taste of it, and you're like, oh wait, I can do this myself with my friends. Like, you know, we didn't like a million other bands. We didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
You know, we got together, and you know, one kid knows a little bit more than another kid, and you all kind of share ideas and things like that. And then, you know, next thing you know, you're writing your own tunes. And my philosophy has always been, if I think it sounds decent, then hopefully it sounds halfway decent, you know?
Well, I always think that, especially when you talk about a band like the Ramones, I mean, yeah, not the most technically proficient musicians ever, but they made up for it with inventiveness, intelligence, wit, and the key thing I think for music is you know, energetic music, especially, is enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you're not enthusiastic playing that kind of rock and roll, whether it be intense and serious or, you know, goofy and ridiculous, you know, I mean, ranging the gamut from, you know, the Dead Boys to, you know, the Ramones to Green Day to, you know, whoever the hell, if it doesn't have that enthusiasm behind it, not that you know, I mean, sure, shoegaze was a thing for a while, and nobody could actually, you know, put a label of enthusiastic looking on shoegaze bands, but it's a genre I love still. But I think in that realm of music, enthusiasm is a key thing. You have to be hyped. You have to be pumped and adrenalized, you know, to put out that kind of forward momentum kind of music. And I think that makes up for any technical proficiency sometimes, quite frankly.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, you can tell, you know, if you're watching a band, you can tell if somebody's just sort of phoning it in, you know, and not really, like, you know, I forget what it exactly is, but Miles Davis has that quote where it's like, you know, 20% is the note and 80% is the motherfucker who plays it, you know?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Kind of giving it all out there and leaving it all out there is, you know, as far as technical skills go, like there's a lot that I don't know anything about the guitar. It's like I know how to do what I can do, and then I just try to do it as well as I can. But I also don't think you need to jump around and you don't need to go crazy as far as jumping around and things like that.
No, that wasn't the kind well, that's part of that can be part of it, but just, you know,
can be, yeah,
enthusiastically playing, you know, like the love of it taking over for the proficiency, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite guitarists are probably Pete Townsend, who was a wild man and would smash everything, and that was all sort of like a, you know, for show. And then my, you know, another favorite guitarist is John Haggerty, who is like so stoic and just stands on stage and just brings it every single time you see him.
Yeah.
Like he's there to do a job and just like flawlessly executes all these great songs. Like, you know, so that is a huge inspiration too.
Yeah. Well, you even talk about the Who. I mean, God, I mean, the Who at their height. I mean, Keith Moon losing his mind, Pete Townsend jumping around, Daltrey swinging that microphone, and I swear to God, I don't know how anybody didn't get brained by that guy doing that one time. And then you got Entwistle, who almost looks like he's dead.
Right.
You know, it's like, but you know, there he is. He's playing a lot. I mean, he's playing a lot of, you know, sometimes complex, you know, stuff. And
for sure,
he could have been a statue looking at those old clips.
Yeah.
you know, it's just, but again, it's a matter of, you know, loving what you do, and that comes through. That comes through, and I think that's really important. So the new album is, I'm gonna blow it. Go ahead and tell me the name of the new album, because I already had it.
Once Upon a Weapon.
Once Upon a Weapon. I was gonna say something completely different, so I'm glad you said it. That's available now on Bandcamp. Let's point people towards there. You know,
wrongwar.bandcamp.com.
that's pretty easy.
We'll get our first record, which is Fixed Against Forever.
Okay.
And then there's that 2-song kind of sampler, and then there's a live little EP that's called Excerpts from Document 001, which was the first time we ever played out. We had a pretty decent recording of it.
Nice.
5 songs on that.
And do you have any ETA on that vinyl?
So it's everything is in production. We're pretty excited. It's getting pressed locally at Smashed Plastic, which is a new vinyl plant in Chicago. And them, along with any other plant, that they're all about 30 plus weeks out. So I mean, it's really crazy lead times right now for that.
But when it's available, you'll have it on Bandcamp.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So keep
so like the vinyl is a split label release. So it's Council Records, which is actually headed up by Matt, who's our singer.
Okay.
Yeah, he ran that label all through the 90s, put out like tons of amazing releases. And then it sat dormant for a long time, and he kind of, us starting this band sort of also prompted him to get Council Records going again.
Okay.
Which is like, we all benefit from that because he's got some great stuff coming out. There's actually a record out today by a New Jersey band called Kirkby Kiss, which is great. So our new record, as with the last one, is a split label release between Council Records and Atomic Action Records, which is out in Rhode Island. Brian Simmons has been super helpful for us with that. So between the two labels, like, they're both the kind of labels that have their own fans, you know? So somebody we're lucky enough where somebody might buy a record that comes out, you know, just because it's on Atomic Action or just because it's on Council, and they trust that label for stuff that they've loved in the past. So we're pretty lucky there. Like, our first record sold out, the vinyl anyways, like, sold out pretty quickly. Between the two labels and us selling them ourselves also.
Right.
Yeah. So, hopefully that's the case here. They'll probably put a pre-order up on Bandcamp at some point, but we thought it was closer. A little silly to put it out if we're not going to have it for 7 months.
Right.
But at the same time, we wanted to get it out there, so we just said, screw it. We'll make it available digitally.
Yeah.
And we've had, I think probably most people are listening to it on Spotify right now. If they do pre-order the vinyl, they get the download on Bandcamp anyways. And we've had a handful of people that everybody in the world knows that they didn't have to do this, but they still paid for the digital download via Bandcamp.
Gotcha.
It's $5. So there's that option, or everybody can go to Spotify and listen to it for free. So I think it's pretty cool, and it says something about, I guess our fans or friends that would feel it was important enough to go support it through Bandcamp instead of Spotify. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, I want to push people towards wrongwar.bandcamp.com. It's $5. Buy the thing, buy the album when it comes out too. And do you have any? I saw something about a show, but I don't know. I forgot if that had passed or.
Yeah, so we did. We did do an afternoon show, which was really cool. Like, it's a little spotty right now, Like, bands aren't necessarily comfortable going out and playing in clubs, and like. Last year or a year and a half ago, you had the clubs that they couldn't have shows.
Right.
Now they can, but a lot of the bands aren't necessarily super comfortable going into a crowded venue and playing a show. So it's kind of a tricky spot right now.
Yeah.
But we played a show on a Sunday afternoon. It was kind of a non-venue type of place.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it all ages, partly just because we grew up going to all ages shows, and we all would like to see more of that in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then partly because all of our own kids got to come to the show, and it was cool.
That's cool.
You know, my kids, you know, it was probably the first time they ever saw me play live. You know, I think they still like me, so that's good. So we did that, and then we really don't have much planned. We're playing in Dayton, Ohio, at what used to be the More Than Music Fest, which is now called the Dayton Music Festival. So it's like a big 3-day like hardcore festival in Dayton.
Nice.
That's in May, and then in the fall, like in September, we just learned it's still getting worked out, but it's kind of like a dream come true for us. We're going to go out east and play a few shows with Soul Side and
Nice.
Verbal Assault. So, and that's all kind of connected through Atomic Action. So, you know, we're just again trying to pick our spots and get around as much as we can with the time that we all have.
Awesome. Well, again, we were talking to Patrick Keenan, guitarist for Wrong War. Check out wrongwar.bandcamp.com. We'll have the links up. And I wish you the best of luck going forward, Patrick.
Hey, thanks so much,
I'm eager to hear the whole album too.
Awesome. I appreciate your time and giving us a chance to talk about it.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.